This is the Kitchen Sink WP Podcast, episode 442.
I program my own computer.
We have a server crash, 104 error, page not found, links aren't working, system is crashing, system is crashing, system is crashing.
Your old HTML website, barely alive. We have the technology. We have WordPress. A new website, better than it was before. Better, stronger, faster. We have the technology.
Why, hello everybody, this is Adam Silver, the host of the Kitchen Sink WP Podcast. Thanks for being here. Let's get started. All right, upcoming events. There are no WordCamps, but per the live stream directory from my buddy Daniel Schutz-Z-Smith, WPLivestreamsdirectory.com. Here's one that looks interesting coming up. It's actually the day after this episode drops. It's Cedar Rapids WordPress Meetup over on meetup.com. It's Tuesday, August 16th, 10:15 p.m. UTC, modern website design and blogging. So that looks pretty interesting. So if you're interested in that, check that out. Yeah, that was it for this week. All right, moving on. Segment one in the news. Couple things here. Friend of the show, John Christopher, sent off an email announcing that OrganizeWP 2.0 is no longer in beta. It's done. It's released. It's out there. He also indicated that it's not going to have subscription-based pricing. It's going to be $29 one time. Licenses don't expire. They include updates and support. And there's some information about that. I guess he said there's too many software subscriptions in the world, and despite subscriptions being very effective, he didn't feel it was a good fit for OrganizeWP. So literally for $30, you know, it's worth just supporting him, just that alone. Anyway, so I'm looking forward to checking that out as well. And it's pretty cool. So thanks for that, John, as well. And what else is going on? Oh, yeah, WordCamp US news, September 9th, still on track. The schedule has been announced and released. There's a link in the show notes for that. And is that it in the news? I think that is it in the news. Yeah. All right. Moving on. Segment 2, the meat potatoes of this week's episode. That's right. This week I interview my friend Chris Badgett. He is the owner, co-founder, CEO, many hats over at LifterLMS. I've talked about LifterLMS in the past, the learning management system. I met the guys a long time ago. Anyway, listen to the interview, and after that, I'll come back with his, I guess that's it, really. So just listen to the interview, and I'll come back with a tip and tool of the week. That's what I'll come back with. All right, here you go. Today, I am joined by Chris Badgett. Chris is a family man, explorer, lifelong learner, course creator, writer, loves cooking and deep work, and is the software CEO or a software CEO over at LifterLMS. Thanks for being on the podcast, Kitchen Sink WP. Chris, welcome.
Thanks for having me back, Adam. I really appreciate it.
Sure thing. So for those who listen to the show, I always tell people how I know the guest. And in this case, we have met many a time in person, but we originally met back in, I don't know what year it was, but it was at Cabo Press.
I think that was in 2014.
Was it that early?
Or 15.
I think it might be 2015. Yeah, 2015. Yeah. Makes sense. Okay. And I remember I remember this, my first recollection of you and Thomas, your partner in crime, Thomas Levy. I remember saying, I have this podcast. And you're like, yeah, so do I.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, but I've been doing it. I mean, you're like, yeah, so have we. I'm like, huh. I was like all ego. I was like, yeah, I got this. And then I realized Cobble Press for me was a huge changing moment. And I was really out of my element in one aspect, you know, and a lot of people put me at ease, but it was a eye-opening experience. Now you've gone many years since. You go every year, right?
I have been. I did not go the last year or two, but okay. I did go to Cabo Press 6 times.
Oh my gosh.
I look forward to going back one day.
Yeah, I may go. We'll see. Okay, so with that, basic question to start off with, real quick, for those who haven't listened to the show before or who don't know you, how could that be? I don't know. And real quick, let's talk about your podcast in a second. But how did you get into WordPress? What was your story, your origin story? You know, in shortly kind of words, how did you get here?
Like most people, it was a windy road into WordPress.
Exactly.
I'm not a business guy. I'm not a tech guy. I didn't study computer science. I actually, prior to WordPress, lived in Alaska. I ran sled dogs up there, and I operated a sled dog tour business that you could only get to by helicopter on the Juneau ice field. And during that time, my wife got pregnant with our first daughter. I started just as a hobby on the side, writing blogs about outdoor leadership. So I went to YouTube and I looked for like how to make a website. Mm-hmm. I fell into somebody's WordPress tutorial and I started just self-learning WordPress. And long story short, transitioning out of Alaska, I decided I wanted to, be super present for my family and just kind of go to a new chapter in life. I wanted to build an online business, work from anywhere. I started building websites for clients, super cheap, like $300, $200. Fast forward over time, built that up to an agency with 17 team members. We were doing high-end work, some of them up to 6 figures a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then through that, we ended up specializing in kind of this membership site, e-commerce, LMS, e-learning niche, marketing automation, and all this stuff. There was not a great product that checked all the boxes to do the LMS, the e-commerce, the gamification, and all the membership functionality. So we created it. And that was the birth of LifterLMS, the WordPress LMS plugin in 2014.
Gotcha. And I remember at the time, so you had the agency and the plugin. You kind of did both, right? At the same time, concurrently.
Yeah, it was pretty exhausting. And, that was one of my big insights actually from the Cabo Press that we met at that exact event. Chris Lim, I remember we were talking about it, and he just made a comment that, you kind of have to choose between being a product company and an agency. And we were doing the really hard thing, which is bootstrapping a product business out of an agency. It's almost impossible to do. It was super painful to do that. But, there was a couple years of overlap, and then we finally just pivoted completely off the agency and became a full product company.
Right. I remember that because you actually sent me, I think, 2 or 3 clients. Yeah. One of them lasted a long time. They were a great client. They still are great people. My agency had a little turmoil, so we lost the client, a couple years later. But and I remember actually that I tell people the story. Thomas, your developer, your co-founder, even apologized and in code. He wrote it. You're not a developer, nor am I per se. But he actually commented out. He's like, "I'm sorry to a future developer who sees this code," because he did stuff that had to be done in a certain way, but it wasn't best practice anyway. So.
That's something we learn in the WordPress community, whether we're a developer or more on the business and marketing side, is that we have to continually evolve.
Right.
And our previous versions of ourselves and the work output that came out of that can sometimes be embarrassing. The people that make it in this niche keep evolving. And part of that means your old stuff you may not be proud of.
Right. Yeah. So this role, currently it's purely product. It's purely LifterLMS, no more agency. Yeah. What's your current title at the company?
CEO and co-founder.
Okay, because I know for a while you were, you still do everything in a sense, but you've grown again. You were looking for employees a couple months ago. We talked about something like a year ago, right before COVID, to do some evangelistic work, that kind of thing. So what's your day-to-day look like then?
Well, basically, I learned this useful framework from a business coach I worked with. His name is Dan Martell. He's really famous in software.
Mm-hmm.
I worked with him for a couple of years. And he kind of gave me the structure of how to think about a business, particularly a software business. And there's these 6 key buckets. The CEO kind of sits on top of it. And then you have product, you have engineering, you have marketing, you have sales, you have customer success, and you have operations and admin. Now, the challenge is, as a bootstrapped company, when you're small, if you're wearing all the hats, you literally have all 7 of those jobs. As we grow, what I like to do is to bring a leader into each of those seats, and I'm lucky and fortunate to have a co-founder. So I never had to wear all the hats, and I don't think we even could have.
Right.
But together, Thomas and I divide up all those roles. And then over time, we've been able to bring in some leaders. For example, we now have a head of customer success and a head of growth marketing. But my day, I spend I look at it more in the week than the day, but in a given week, I'll spend probably 20% of my time doing CEO stuff, strategic partnerships, relationships, weekly one-on-ones with leaders in the team, running our team meeting. And then I also still lead sales. I also co-lead product with my co-founder. I also co-lead operations. So there's still a lot of stuff to get done there. So as we grow, my vision eventually is to get leaders leading up each of those departments. And we have other people in the organization who work in those various departments, but that's kind of how I structure it. So I'm capable of deep work.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can go deep and focus on like a key, like sales thing or relationship thing or strategic planning thing, but also do a lot of multitasking, which me personally, I don't necessarily enjoy, but it's just the nature of being a bootstrapped entrepreneur.
Right. So with that said, I mean, I remember at one time, I believe you used to travel, or Thomas would travel out to you to kind of mastermind and do business dev together, like work on the company as co-founders.
Yeah.
Do you guys still do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's had a little break with the pandemic and everything like that, but we'll be doing that again soon around WordCamp US. So typically when a big event like that happens, we'll actually come early or stay late and kind of bolt that together time onto that event.
Makes sense. All right. So now that you mentioned COVID and, we've had the pandemic, you've said it twice. By the way, I like your mug. For those who can't see me because I don't record video, I have the same mug. And I have a sweatshirt. One of my favorites. I can't wear it. It's too hot now in North Carolina, but I do have my favorite LifterLMS sweatshirt. It's awesome. My hoodie. Anyway, so with COVID, and that's one of the main reasons I wanted to bring you on the podcast, was I wanted to get your take on it in your realm, because, learning management system is your business, not your life, but it's your business. I know there's a huge difference there. Where do you think things are at now, 2 years later? I mean, 2020 was a banner year for my agency. We were busy with nonprofits, getting websites up. People had funds they had to spend, etc. 2021, not as busy. My fault for not planting seeds. But it's 2022. It is August. And I'm curious, your take from the educational perspective. Are we still seeing growth? Do you think? I mean, what do you see there?
Yeah, I mean, just to look at the data, we also experienced, banner growth during the pandemic in terms of people coming to online education. I also just want to note that online learning and using a learning management system has a lot of different niches within it.
Right.
And when you kind of learn to unpack these, what you think is the growth potential is actually much larger, especially with a flexible platform like WordPress and Lifter. This is why I do a lot of work trying to help WordPress agencies and professionals get into the LMS niche, because there's all these niches within the LMS space. So, we think about the obvious thing like regular schools, but there's a lot of like adult learning, continuing education, companies building internal training portals. There's like people in gyms and stuff that are doing their training in LMS. There's people building like marketing challenge funnels inside courses. There's certification and just, I don't know, there's 13. I don't have them all by memory, but different niches. So yes, there has been a lot of growth. Like most WordPress companies, I network with a lot of other founders and entrepreneurs. 2022 and inflation, stock market crash, whatever's going on in the world, some of that growth has slowed down. And as the world right now is somewhat recalibrating it, and I see that regardless of the niche in most WordPress product companies, that things are a little sideways or trending down a little bit or whatever, but it's challenging times out there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you and I, it's funny. I've come to you a couple of times, well, probably more than a couple of times over the last 6 years or whatever it may be. And I pitch you this idea and I have this thing and you're like, yeah, this is great. And I'm always inspired when I talk to people. I need to talk to people more to help me. Like, it's hard to hold myself accountable, So how do you do that for yourself? I'm curious, from an owner, a business owner, you say you have the ability to do the deep work and to focus and to work on the growth. How do you hold yourself accountable? Is it just because you have a co-founder?
I think I'm just wired that way.
Dang it.
I would...
no magic pill.
I heard this thing on another podcast recently, the entrepreneur personality type. There's a lot that's in that to unpack, but one of the things is that you're just generally 20% dissatisfied with everything. And there's like that just continuing need, obsession, desire to optimize. Yeah. So that just creates the momentum. I'm an opportunity spotter. I look around me, I see opportunity everywhere. I see, particularly in my niche, I see people and their life skills, knowledge, experience, and I see like a potential for like a course or coaching program inside almost every human being. And I just see opportunity everywhere. So that's what I keep showing up for. I think I didn't really know this about myself till later in life, and I just kind of fell into it in terms of, okay, I need to figure out how to make money. I'm going to build sites. And then all of a sudden I just kind of came to realize I have this entrepreneurial personality type, and it just keeps me going. And the other thing is, I think it's important to do the deep strategic and vision work like your kind of 10-year plan, 5-year plan, 1-year plan. What's your mission, vision, and values? One of the things that keeps me going is my life mission is the exact same as my company mission, which is to lift up others through education. That motivates me. It permeates everything I do. I'm personally a lifelong learner. I'm into improvement, personal development. I'm really into making sure my kids have the most educational opportunities. I see education as a force for, a lot of people like to complain about the world or, make statements on social media, but the real change on the ground happens through education, both formal and non-formal, where people can make a big impact. Because building courses and coaching programs and membership sites and online communities is not just about making money.
Right.
It's about making impact.
Make an impact.
So that motivates me.
Right. Okay. Makes sense. I mean, in kind of going back to that aspect of the COVID aspect and moving forward, I mean, obviously there's still opportunity. And when you say about that, I feel similar. I feel like we are, of the same cloth to some extent, where I consider myself an ideation savant. I have ideas, as you know. That's my problem, is I have too many ideas. And I've learned to not share them with my wife, not in a negative way, but to her, they're distractions until they're a live product or service. But I share them with friends who I trust to bounce the ideas off of.
That's why entrepreneurs need to hang out together. You mentioned masterminding, because I'm the same way. Not that I don't share ideas with my wife, but eventually I realized
it's not their thing.
Like, her personality type is a little different. Like, it's a little, I am different. I have higher risk tolerance. I can't turn my brain off. That's one of the entrepreneurial personality traits, by the way, is you literally can't turn it off and you don't know how.
Right. I wake up at 4 a.m. and like this morning, I was up at 4. I wasn't supposed to get up till 4:45 to go for my run, but I woke up. I just was up. I just started jotting down some notes because I don't fight it anymore. I'll take a nap later if needed, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So on that ideation, we've talked about this a couple of times. I'm curious with Lifter or any other LMS for that matter. You've mentioned in the past, I've heard you mention it on other podcasts, on your podcast, you've told me directly about the whole $1 trial or the pricing point at like $30 a month because it's like $1 a day.
Yeah.
It's 2022. Do you still think that's valid?
Well, there's a couple questions in there.
Yeah.
Pricing is something I've spent a lot of time on.
Right.
So I'm just going to drop like probably 3 main pricing ideas and concepts here that are relevant to any WordPress business. One is we have a free plugin that we contribute to the WordPress community. So giving as much away as possible for free is very valuable, and that's not going to change. And that's literally, in my view and the view of many others, the WordPress way.
Right.
Just like WooCommerce, we have this free core plugin we contribute. The other thing you mentioned is the $1 trial. When you believe in your product, the best marketing is the product itself. So making it easy for people to take a test drive is important. The reason we put $1 on it is it just creates a little more commitment, seriousness approaching, in our case, in the software demo world, a sandbox demo. And, there is a little cost to all the infrastructure that goes behind that. But by simply just here it is, take a look without trying to oversell or whatever, that's the value of the $1 trial. So if you really believe in your product or service, having that lost leader to make it easy for people to build trust in your offering is important. And then the pricing psychology, which is a huge topic of price points, I'll just give you my best learning after a decade in this industry, which is there are certain price points, and it's actually like a fractal that goes out infinitely. So it basically goes like this. It goes 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, and then it starts repeating. So 10, 20, 30, 50, 100, 200, 300, 500, 1,000. It goes on up into the tens of thousands and all that stuff. So that's the way they're called pricing speed bumps in pricing psychology. One of my favorite price points is the 3s. So whether that's $3, $30, or $300, that is a really solid price point. So especially the $30 mark, if you're newer to market, or and you can afford to charge that amount, it's like $1 a day.
Right.
So it's a no-brainer price point. So I highly recommend if you can offer something at that point to do it. Now there is inflation and stuff to consider. One more just pro tip out there, 30 can also be 29. It can be 299. If you
Right.
do the actual round number in pricing psychology, that's called confidence pricing. So that's up to you whether you want to play the 99.97 game or do the confidence pricing. They both can work depending upon what your market is.
Right.
But those are some how I think about pricing.
Okay. All right. I have two more questions for you. One main question, and then we'll get to the final question there. Be respectful of your time. So, the question is this way, and there's a word here in quotes, and it'll make sense. Why are we scared to launch courses? We being, let's say, me. But you always hear people have an idea for a course. You see an opportunity for people to do coaching or to give information back about what they know. But there's always that fear of actually creating it and launching it. They have the information. I have the information of what I want to share. I mean, I've been talking for years about doing the pantry videos, training videos for Kitchen Sink. I recently took a challenge from my friend Lauren, who lives here now, actually not too far from me. He's down in Apex. He's like, get it done this month kind of thing. So, I need to get this done. I have this idea. Anyway, why are we so scared? What do you think that is from the creator perspective?
I've actually spent a lot of time around this issue, and it's there's actually 3 layers to this onion in my experience. So
I love it.
the first layer is really around this kind of disappointment around a lack of progress. So it sounds easy, like, oh, okay, turn what you know and monetize your life experience and skills and stuff like
Right.
that. But as time stretches on, it actually becomes more and more painful that there's like a lack of progress. So that's just kind of on the surface. Beneath a lot of that is the classic imposter syndrome, which we all have. I have, I'm sure you have, I'm sure everybody listening has, which is kind of boils down to, who am I to make this thing? Who am I to go on stage and be an expert in X? There's a lot of issues inside of imposter syndrome. It's really a natural human response to, this is why people have stage fright, for example. The reason that people have stage fright psychologically is when you go back to more primitive human societies, you don't want to be like on stage out in the open in front of like 30, 40, 50, 150, 1,000 of your peers. It's a very vulnerable position to be in. So we're literally wired. This is like a protection mechanism that maybe it doesn't serve the modern human as well as it used to in earlier times in our development. And then the third challenge here is a little psychological hang up that people get, which is around, I call it over focusing on making money online. So it's like an inward focus on, okay, I need to have this business. I'm trying to get this income stream. I need to make money online. I need cash flow, all this stuff. And what can help people unlock that one is by just turning the focus more on the outward. It's totally cool to like make money and be into that stuff and build a business. But when the people I see that really overcome this, they have a really strong service mindset. Like they've done a lot of work, the customer avatar work. They literally feel obligated to ship product and do the work because these people need them. And it's like a disservice to not help these people that are in whatever pain or opportunity they're sinking. So those are kind of the 3 layers of what I call the failure to launch, or the just the kind of stalled out kind of course creators version of writer's block.
Man, that was good. It's so true. I mean, it's ironic that I have a degree in theater. I don't have stage fright. I'm a trained actor.
Yeah.
I don't have the stage fright perspective. I don't mind getting on stage. I don't mind doing the podcast. I don't love video. I mean, of course, I'm picky about how certain things. I mean, you can't see it. I mean, you can see it. I have a mustache currently because I'm just trying to annoy my wife. I check that box off for the month. But, for me, it's a matter of like, there's already content out there. If I do these videos that I want to do, but the same token, I have an audience.
But there's only one you.
Right, exactly.
That's the thing.
I mean, I give credit to I have the podcast, Dustin Hartzler. We talked before I hit record. I might be the longest running consistently weekly show now, 8.5 years in. But when I started, there was like 3 or 4 other podcasts that were pretty consistent. Dustin, your website engineer was one of them. He's gone more infrequent because he's busy, life has changed and whatnot. But he encouraged me to start a podcast because we have different voices, we have different formats, whatever it may be. But yeah, I'm still always really second guessing myself on doing the whole video thing, on the courses thing. I've bought probably half a dozen domains specifically for a course. Yeah, I don't want to say how many domains actually, but it's that fear.
Another tip for you is I see a lot of people use YouTube to kind of get over this, and you've already done the podcasting thing a lot, which also helps. But by just getting in the habit, and this is part of that moving the free line of just giving away helpful content for your tribe without the pressure of it being a product.
Right.
It helps put in the reps and the sets for what's coming later.
Right. Makes sense. Yeah. All right. Well, with that, let's move on to the final question. The 3 tools. People always like to know what other people in business are using. So what 3 tools do you use on a daily basis that you kind of can't live without to do your day-to-day, let's say in the business perspective?
Well, I definitely use just kind of Slack internally as communication.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a fun fact for you. The company Zoom, which we're recording this podcast meeting in or whatever, contacted me a couple years ago and let me know that I was in their top 1% of users. And this comes from, I do a lot of meetings, I'm a CEO. I do a lot of content like this inside Zooms. When I ran my agency, I was in Zoom probably 7 hours a day with clients and stuff like that. So Zoom is the thing.
Yeah, I use it every day. I use Zoom and Slack as well. Yeah, I pay for Zoom now because I had to go longer than 40 minutes for free.
I actually bought some stock in Zoom, and I'm like, this is, especially now when it's down, I'm like, this tool, like, I use this so much. I should have bought stock in it a long time ago. Right. But anyways, what else is super important to me? I'd probably just throw it out there at WordPress.
Okay.
We use it for marketing. Our product's built around it. And I didn't realize it at the time back in 2008 when I started messing around with WordPress, but I'm kind of like one of the ideal types of WordPress users out there. It just works for me. Right. I love the community. I love the product, the extendability. I love where the direction it's going in. And WordPress, Slack, and Zoom, it's amazing what you could create with just those 3 tools.
Well, awesome. Thank you for that. Okay. Lastly, where can people find you out on the ethers if they want to touch base and connect?
If you're a podcast listener, I have a podcast that started around the same time Adam did. Like, I like to say that Adam and I started our podcast at the same time as Tim Ferriss. Tim's just a little more famous or whatever.
Barely. He's barely ahead of us.
But so check out LMS Cast. Our website is LifterLMS.com. If you're a visual learner, our YouTube channel has almost 1,000 videos, maybe more on it. So go look for LifterLMS on YouTube if you want to see how to build a WordPress LMS website in 2022 and beyond.
Cool.
I'm also very active on Twitter. So if you actually want to talk directly, just find at Chris Badgett on Twitter.
He is. And I mean, we go back and forth, and I like your photos because you do your morning walk and your routine. I do something similar. Yeah. I always, I love connecting with you, and your brother and Thomas, so that's cool. And I believe you're going to be at WordCamp US.
Yep. I'll be there.
I'll be there as well. See you there. Awesome. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. And we'll see you soon.
Thanks, Adam.
And again, thanks, Chris, for taking the time. You're awesome. Thanks again for being on the show. It's a fantastic tool. If you haven't checked it out, go over to LifterLMS.com. Check them out. So, all right, moving on. Segment 3, tip until the week. This week's tip is a plugin called WP Githuber MD. It's a WordPress Markdown editor. And I checked it out. I was looking to do some Markdown. I've been writing some content over in Drafts app in Markdown for Run Adam Run, for my running blog, website, etc. And this plugin takes the Markdown and just converts it right off the bat. So check that out. It's pretty cool. It's easy, free. So it does a link in the show notes as well. But it's called WP Githuber MD, which stands for Markdown. So there you go. All right, then we'll wrap it up here. If you have a question, go ahead, send it in via email, adam@KitchensinkWP.com, or use the speak pipe function on the website. If you want to support the show, become a Patreon. I would really appreciate that. There's a link in the website. And you can sponsor the show. There's a form on the website as well. Thanks for listening. See you next week. Now go out and do some awesome things with WordPress. All right? Bye-bye.